Hey, it's Annie and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things beauty, skincare, and wellness. So hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss my next video. As someone who has been dealing with acne for over 2 decades now, I'm an expert at getting rid of breakouts fast, like within a few days, no matter how big, deep, or cystic it is. Trust me, I've had a lot of experience when it comes to this, and I know what it's like to have a huge breakout on your face and how self-conscious that can make you feel. There was a period of my life where I was dealing with breakouts for what it felt like back to back to back. And it just always felt like I had a breakout on my face and I felt so self-conscious about myself. I didn't even really want to go outside. Even when friends would invite me to hang out, I would just immediately say no because I didn't want to deal with that feeling thinking about like, oh my God, like I wonder who's looking at my face. It can definitely mess with your self-confidence. So I want to share my foolproof method on how I get rid of any type of breakout fast. And this method works for breakouts that are smaller, whiteheads, and all the way up to very deep and cystic acne, which is the type of acne that I've been blessed with these past few years. But I do want to caveat, because I do want to be realistic here, if you are dealing with a very large, deep cystic breakout, kind of like the one I was dealing with last year, then I highly recommend seeing your dermatologist to see if you can get a hydrocortisone shot, because that is going to help get rid of it so much faster. You can still use my method, it'll work, but just know for very large and very deep cystic breakouts, it just may take a bit more time if your breakout is that massive. But let's get into my method. So my first step is to use a high frequency wand immediately. As soon as you sense the breakout starting to form, you feel like a hard little lump under your skin, grab your high frequency wand. And I don't know who has been doing the PR for blue light and acne, but they're truly working overtime because I have had so many different blue light tools and they've honestly done nothing for my acne compared to a high frequency wand. The way that high frequency works is that it generates low-level electrical currents that produce something called ozone, and that's what kills the acne-causing bacteria. Honestly, it is so effective that I will bring my high frequency wand with me even if I'm traveling, if my skin is feeling that fussy. This is honestly the most effective tool for acne. It's a total game changer. It's definitely changed my life, and if you're someone that deals with pretty frequent breakouts, then I highly recommend investing in this tool. You can get one on Amazon for around $30-something, and my favorite thing about this tool is that it's a tool. So if you take good care of it, it can potentially last you a really long time. So here's pretty much how I use my high frequency wand. I will use it on clean and dry skin. So right after I wash my face, I'll go in with my wand. It comes with all of these different size heads. So really depending on how big my breakout is, if it's just one breakout, then I'll use the smaller head. But if I'm treating a larger breakout, maybe it's a couple of pimples, then that's when I would go use the larger head. And with your high frequency wand, on the bottom there is a dial to control how strong the current can be, and typically I'll turn up the dial maybe like 1/4, 1/3 of the way. You should be able to feel something, but you also don't want it to be overwhelmingly spicy. If it feels like it's too much, just turn it down. And then I'll use my high frequency wand on each breakout area for 1 to 2 minutes max, nothing longer than that. If it's a really deep cystic breakout, I'll use it twice in one day, again each time 1 to 2 minutes max. But honestly, don't do any more than that because it is possible to overuse a high frequency wand. Trust me, I've done it, especially when my skin was really bad. It can kind of fry your skin. And then after I'm done with my high frequency wand, I will just spritz hypochlorous acid all over my face to make sure my skin is clean. Hypochlorous acid is a weak antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory spray that kills acne causing bacteria. And it's gotten really popular on social media over this past year because it really just helps disinfect your face. The most important thing to look out for when it comes to hypochlorous acid spray is that you want to make sure you're using one that's mainly hypochlorous acid. Don't get one that's formulated with other actives like zinc or salicylic acid or whatever. Get one that's mostly hypochlorous acid if you really want the disinfecting benefits. And I'll pop up a few on the screen that I really like. And the most important thing to note about hypochlorous acid is that it can deactivate antioxidant serums, so like your vitamin C serum. You You can still use a vitamin C or an antioxidant serum after using hypochlorous acid. You just need to make sure that hypochlorous acid has completely dried down. Next, I'll use some sort of acne fighting active on my face. And here are some of the actives that have been really effective on my skin when it comes to fighting breakouts. Of course, don't use all of these ingredients at once because that's just gonna freak your skin out and make your acne even worse, which is the opposite of what we want right now. It's really important to bake in some hydration focused morning and evening routines so that way you're giving your skin barrier a little time to recover. So this is kind of like a sample schedule of how I would use these actives if I'm really focusing on minimizing breakouts. I definitely don't use all of these actives all at once. I'll choose one active and kind of make that the star of the show for either my morning or my evening routine. And there are certain actives that I prefer using at night, like my retinols, retinoids, retinals, just because they're more effective at night. You definitely don't want to be using these ingredients during the day because sunlight can break them down and make them less effective. I would say that my skin is pretty high maintenance when it comes to acne, so that's why I kind of like to cycle through different ingredients because I find that my skin does get used to ingredients. So when I cycle in different ingredients, I feel like that works the best because it kind of just keeps my skin guessing. I'm fighting the acne on all fronts. And if you don't know where to start with a skincare routine or you're just really confused on how to use all of these actives together, let me know in the comments because I have another method on how to build your own skincare routine based on your skin concerns. The way that works is depending on what your skin concerns are, you kind of like come up with your own ingredient combo. And I already have lists of ingredient combos that you can start off with depending on whatever skin concern that you have. Once you have your ingredient combo, you can just pop it into one of my schedules. I have a schedule for beginners, like let's say you're new to skincare and you don't even know where to start. This one's definitely for you. I also have one for intermediate users. So let's say you are already using one or two actives. Maybe you want to layer in a second or third, but you're not sure how to do that. I also have a schedule for you. And of course, I have a skincare schedule for my expert skincare junkies, the ones who are using 3 to 4 actives. So let me know if it would be helpful for you to see a video on that because I'm having a lot of fun creating different skincare routines from comments that I'm getting on TikTok and Instagram. Salicylic acid is one of the first ingredients that I turn to when I do have a breakout because it is a beta hydroxy acid that's oil soluble. So it can get really deep within the pore to melt all of that sebum, bacteria, and gunk in there to really help your breakout come to the surface and heal faster. My favorite BHA product is definitely the Paula's Choice 2% BHA toner with salicylic acid. And I know there is a lot of 2% salicylic acid toners out there on the market now. And I have tried a bunch of them and I don't know what it is, but I just keep coming back to the Paula's Choice because it is just so effective at getting rid of oil, getting rid of acne. It's just something about the formulation. Like that product just works incredibly well for my skin and it works so well for my skin. I actually use it on my scalp as well because I have oily roots. So pro tip, if you have the Paula's Choice BHA and you also have oily roots, definitely try using it as a scalp exfoliator. If you're a beginner to salicylic acid, then I definitely recommend checking out the La Roche-Posay Effaclar line. I feel like they have a lot of great products that still have salicylic acid, but maybe not at that 2%. I think there's a few at like 0.5 and like 1 or 1.5%. So those are really great options for beginners to salicylic acid. Glycolic acid is also another really great exfoliant that helps speed up skin cell turnover. Some glycolic acid products that I really like, first would be the Pixie toner. That one is a 5% glycolic acid toner and it's super easy to use. You can just dispense some on a cotton pad and wipe. Next, I also really love the 7% glycolic acid toning lotion from The Ordinary. I literally use that one all over my body. I'll use that one on my scalp as well, armpits for both BO and lightening. I'll use it on drier areas of my body like my elbows and my heels for a nice exfoliation moment. And I also love the Dr. Gross peel pads. I know they are called daily peel pads, but because of this skin cycling schedule routine that I have, sometimes I'll just use the peel pads maybe like once or twice a week. I don't really like using them every day because again, I have like this whole roster of actives that I like to get through, especially when I'm dealing with a breakout. And honestly, the peel pads are so amazing for travel. They're all individually wrapped. Azelaic acid is one of my new favorites, and I feel like it is such a good ingredient because it can do so much and help with so many concerns, but it's not really that sensitizing or irritating. I actually call it a baby retinol because I feel like it can do pretty much what retinol can do, you, but it's definitely not as irritating for your skin. So if you're someone who maybe had a bad reaction to retinol, or maybe you can't use it right now, I would definitely look into azelaic acid. Some of my favorites would be the Inky List or the 9-list azelaic acid, especially if you're a beginner and you just kind of want to like dip your toe in the azelaic acid waters to try it out. But for breakouts, I really like the azelaic acids that are formulated with a BHA. So I really like the Anua one. That one I think has 0.5% BHA in it. And then there's also a Paula's Choice azelaic acid that also has 0.5% salicylic acid in it. And for azelaic acid, you can also go the prescription route. You can get a 15% azelaic acid prescription from your dermatologist. I actually went to see a dermatologist recently and filled a prescription for a 15% AA, so that's also another option. Sulfur is another one of my favorite ingredients for acne, and my favorite sulfur product is definitely the Kate Somerville Eradicate Cleanser, because it truly is a 3-in-1 product. And normally I hate it when people say that about cleansers, but in this case it truly is a 3-in-1 product. I really love using this cleanser as both a cleanser, a mask, and a spot treatment. And I love using this cleanser as a mask because now that I find myself getting older, I feel like with traditional clay masks, sometimes they just are too drawing for my skin, and by the end of it I just feel like it's suffocating and straining my skin. So what I love about Eradicate Cleanser is that it just makes for a really gentle mask. I can leave it on for 5, 10, 20 minutes and it doesn't feel like it's suffocating my face. It actually feels like it's just absorbing all of the oil, and when I go to wash it off, my skin doesn't feel like super dry. It's also great for its original intended use as a cleanser, and sometimes when I want to use a spot treatment, maybe I'm like a little oily somewhere or like around my nose or my T-zone, I just like using it as a spot treatment as well, because again, it's not super drying. Another mask that I really like for acne, not only does it have sulfur, but it also has salicylic acid, is the Murad Acne Mask, and that one is just so great, especially if I'm dealing with a larger breakout or a more serious breakout and I need something a little bit stronger than the Kate Somerville Eradicate, and I definitely go to the Murad mask. That was also another really great ingredient. I think it's such a good option to retinol because you can get a lot of the same benefits with retinal as retinol, but it's a lot gentler on your skin, because with retinal there is one less retinoic conversion, which means less sensitization for your skin. Some of my favorite retinols would definitely be the Naturium one, and I really like how the Naturium one has different strengths. So if you're a complete beginner to retinols, or maybe you don't have a good reaction with retinols, you can always go for the lower percentage retinol. I also really love the retinol range from Medik8. I believe that one has 4 or 5 different strengths. There is a retinol 1, 3, 6, and I think 10 or 9. And the last ingredient is tretinoin, which is probably my favorite ingredient for treating acne, just because it is so strong. But because it is so strong, you definitely want to make sure you're not overusing it. Otherwise, you know, you can get some really serious side effects. Like you can definitely over exfoliate and damage your skin barrier. You could get a lot of flakiness, a lot of dryness, just a lot of sensitization, your skin just feeling raw. I've definitely been there. Tretinoin is a whole thing in itself to incorporate into your skincare routine. So let me know if it'd be helpful to see a video on how I incorporate tretinoin back into my skincare routine. I might actually just do that anyway, because I've unknowingly taken like a 6-month break from tretinoin. I used to get my tretinoin and azelaic acid formulated together from a company called Apostrophe, who sadly closed in the beginning of the year. So ever since they closed, I just haven't refilled my prescription anywhere else. Recently I went to the dermatologist and I got myself a tretinoin prescription and an azelaic acid prescription. Okay, so next, pimple patches. And here is where my method also forks a little bit, just depending on what type of breakout you're dealing with. But no matter what type of breakout that you're dealing with, if you are a picker, you are someone who is constantly touching their face, then I highly recommend just slapping an acne patch on your breakout, so that way you can keep it protected from yourself and the elements and really just let it start healing on its own. If you're dealing with acne that has a head or a whitehead or cystic acne, then I have a little hack for you when it comes to pimple patches. Whenever I'm dealing with a whitehead or a cystic breakout, I love using my acne patches to extract them. And I know that sounds so crazy, but it actually works so well. And the reason it works so well is because I will use a thicker, stronger acne patch that adheres so well to your skin. It literally, you can pull out all of the gunk in your breakout. I know it sounds crazy, so let me explain. An acne breakout is basically a super inflamed, clogged pore. Think about it. When you're dealing with a whitehead or a cystic acne breakout, there is literally a hard bump of mass underneath your skin. And inside is going to be a mix of sebum, dead skin cells, and bacteria. And if you want your breakout to go away, you need to get that stuff out as soon as possible. You could try popping your pimple with one of those extraction tools, but it is so hard to get that perfect extraction because you really need to be using the tool at the right angle and using the right amount of force. And usually I just end up damaging my skin, which makes the healing process even longer. So instead of using a tool to extract, I like using a pimple patch to do the work for me. And the key is to use a thick and sticky pimple patch that's strong enough to pull out all of that gunk. And my favorite patches to do extractions with are the Peace Out Acne Dots, and the Panoxyl PM patches are also a great drugstore alternative. I've gone insane extractions with both of these patches, so that's why I always have them stocked in my bathroom at all times. You want to wait until your pimple has been popped and open, but you also don't want it to be wet and oozing, otherwise the pimple patch is literally not going to stay on. So then wait until it dries and then put on your pimple patch. I highly recommend either the Peace Out or the Panoxyl and leave it on for at least 6 hours. I like leaving it on overnight just because it's easier that way. Just put it on and you go to sleep. And then once you wake up, it should be ready to go. You may not get an extraction the very first time you put on a patch, but if you're lucky, maybe you'll get something. If you don't get anything, just try again. So make sure the breakout is dry and apply another patch. And again, you definitely want to wait at least 6 hours. It needs some time to marinate. I don't always get an extraction the first time, but I usually do by the second or the third time. And I will keep extracting with pimple patches until I can no longer feel like that hard lump underneath my skin. The best part of this method is because the patches are so strong and sticky, typically after 1 or 2 pulls, they usually get out all of the gunk inside. And once it's flattened, that's when it should start to heal and when you can start focusing on fading the acne scar that it's probably going to leave behind. And let me know if it would be helpful to see a separate video on this because I feel like I'm also an expert on fading acne scars now too. I know that was a lot, but I hope you found this video helpful and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below and I'll see you in the next video.